Welcome to What's Brewing, a Brunel Students podcast. Today, we have a Black History Month special, and we are here with very special guests. We have Reggie, our BME officer. Hey, Reggie, how you doing?
I'm fine.
And
Thank
we
you.
also have Mr. El Presidente himself, Remz, the
Yo,
ACS
yo.
president.
Yo,
And we are here to discuss topics around Black History Month and really what is our intention for this year, and plus just go into a natural conversation. But first, we have tea, and we're gonna brew some tea. Yeah. So, guys, what do you have? What do you guys have?
I have black tea and chai ginger latte, I think.
I just kept it basic. I just stuck to a chai latte.
I feel like you came with a radio voice today. I like it. But I like it. But yeah, everyone pour your tea and let's get ready to start. In fact, fun in my language, chai is tea as well.
It's tea.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I believe it comes from, I think it's an Indian word.
Okay.
So when tea came to Uganda, we call it chai. So chai, when people just say chai, I know it's tea. And I know that's what.
Chai is tea.
Chai is tea.
You know
So
that
chai
some-
tea is
some
just
people say
tea.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, guys.
Okay, and this is your section.
Yep.
And we just have
Some English black tea.
English black
Nah,
tea.
this tastes way better. Trust me.
I
Try it
know. I know. Chai is the real stuff.
out.
There you
Yes.
go.
Black tea, I think is
It's just plain, innit?
it's plain. Yeah, it's plain. It's not too strong.
Yeah.
Some can be strong, but this is just there. You know.
And I've got a bit.
I'm not much of a tea drinker myself.
Really?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not.
What's
much of a
your
tea drinker.
go-to thing?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Okay, I'm a hot chocolate person.
Hot chocolate is nice.
I like that.
Hot chocolate.
I think I'm
is
working my way
nice.
up to
That was my stuff before I found coffee.
But I had a latte the other day and I really enjoyed it. So I might be switching.
yeah, don't get hooked. It's for real. But yeah, let's start. I want to talk about the media representation.
Yeah.
So, of course, representation does matter. As much as we may think that the media doesn't have as much influence as you may think over yourself, reason why there's so much money in marketing and advertisement and all that stuff. And how do you, growing up, let's say maybe wherever you grew up, maybe in the West or multiple countries, how did you see people of your skin type represented in the media?
This is a very interesting question. So I think if I look back the last maybe more recently we've seen more nuance in black representation in the media. But I think usually and traditionally, like growing up, it was a thing of like black characters, like I'm talking like Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, like to even like the more blockbuster type movies. There's always a certain dynamic between black characters and like I'd say that of others. So like you see like a constant focus on certain like archetypes when it comes to black characters. So you look at a Franklin Saint, you look at a Tariq St. Patrick, you look at a Mitch, you look at a O-Dog, like, and these are movies that all of us would have grown up watching, and it's like you see the same thing of angry, aggressive black man, angry, aggressive black man, aggressive black woman, or funny and not too smart, or that, until we had things like, like Hidden Figures. Shout out to those queens, by the way. But like, like there's usually just a very certain type of thing, or I just remember them always being like subordinate. Like even like growing up, I remember like watching I'd see the Oscars and I'd always see like black people winning best supporting. Like if they're, do you know what I mean? Like,
no, I see. It's the little ones.
Like there's and even when it comes to more, like when it comes to adverts and stuff like that, it's reinforced so many problems in our community because see something like colorism. A lot of people still now refuse to acknowledge that colorism is a thing. But that's just because of how deep it has been, you know, like implanted into their subconscious from all of the adverts you've watched growing up. Like, if you're being quite frank, anytime there's any advert that would supposedly appeal to like a black female audience, like the women are always going to be lighter shade, very light shade, have their hair a certain way. And like, someone might ask, oh, why is that a problem? Like, when something is constantly being portrayed in a certain way, it like, think of all the you know, the girls growing up that were dark
That becomes the standard.
Yeah, they think that becomes the standard
that's the
of pretty. You know what I'm saying? Like, and yeah, like, you can just see how like things have just been messed up by the media's portrayal of us.
And also, just to elaborate on colorism, so for those who may not know, it's just the different treatment in skin shades. Usually, a preference towards lighter skin because lighter is closer to white and it's hence more preferable. You do see this in different cultures. You see this a lot, just all over Africa, even places in Asia. And just a little thing, I forgot which country it was specifically, but in South America, there was even a government like purposeful whitening of the population. Like, this is like the intentions. So like, you marry white, after generations after that, it's just, so you can see how it's embedded, and you know, after a while it becomes into your psyche and it spreads across. And also reinforced by preferential treatment someone of a lighter shade might get in different places. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. And Reggie, how about you? What's been your experience in representation?
Well,
it's black people in media.
More recently, it's shifted. You know, growing up, just like Remz said, it was a lot of the thug role, and then the sassy guy, or the angry chick. You know, that's what we grew up seeing. But like, recently, a lot more black producers have started to get into the business.
Shout 50 Cent.
Those stereotypes that used to be pushed heavily before are no more being pushed, because these black producers know what, you know, they know what they want to put out there, and they know both sides of the story. So why a white producer just pushes out what he thinks or what will sell, what's popular, the black people know what's real within the community, and they know what to push out there. Then recently you see stuff like Black Panther. As much as it's spoken about, it has this there's this African futurism about it, that everybody saw Africa in a very, very cool sense. But if you think about it, Mansa Musa and the Mali Kingdom, and how great they were, Wakanda, and how great Wakanda's portrayal was. So the narrative recently has started to change from, you know, being the goon, the gangster. Now there's corporate black people. You see in Suits, the TV show, you see the black woman who's like equals with her respect.
Jessica, big up Jessica Peterson.
So more recently, it's started to shift in the positive.
Even
light.
that, if you look at the appearance of Jessica, that goes back to what we were speaking about previously.
So it's started to come out in the positive light, and then those negative stereotypes are gradually being replaced with real stuff. So in recent times, I'm enjoying what the narrative out there in the media is portraying about the black society.
Moving into the next topic, where I think black people dominate, and that's music and fashion. What's your opinion on that? And how does that make you feel, really?
When it comes to, I suppose, well, music, like you can't really like discount us there. Like, we're the culture, everything is influenced by like black culture, especially when it comes to music. Like, I'd say music is one of the most, like, just the culture behind hip hop like particularly like behind hip hop and all of that, like it's so embedded into a lot of things. But then the problem with it is that it also, well, obviously there's still a lot of like problems within that sphere. So I'll give an example. August Wilson, African American playwright, he had there's a book that he wrote called Ma Rainey's Bottoms, and it kind of just describes, I would say, the situation for a lot of Black people in that sphere, which is a lot of people, they do get taken advantage of. So I think culturally, and you know, when it comes to everything we do, music is a very big part of that. You know, like there's songs that are sung to a newborn baby. You know, there's songs you sing at a funeral, church, whether like there's just, you know what I mean, like there's always music, there's always something going on, like, and African music is always it's functional, you know what I mean, like obviously that's where like all of the roots have like come out from, you know, like hip hop would have started off with the griots and their form of storytelling and all of that kind of stuff, and then obviously you got blues and all of that kind of stuff, and you see like where the roots go to. But I suppose we're the guys in that in that sphere, innit? So
we are. Fashion music has come a long way. You know, our fashion and music has come a long way. As you know, compared to the time where hip hop was heavily demonized, you know, it's violent music, is gang affiliated. You know, we still had guys like Tupac make it big that time. If you look at his interviews, you see that behind the bars and the rap, this is a highly intellectual guy as of that time. Nowadays, we look at Kendrick Lamar, To Pimp a Butterfly, Dumb. And through the music that used to be demonized before hip hop, he's talking about, he's talking about being loyal. He's talking about systemic oppression and racism through that same hip hop that used to be demonized. We look at Fela Kuti. Afro, and he's using his afro to fight the government intimidating people. So they've taken this music that used to be very demonized, changed the narrative. They've claimed a new narrative with the music.
It's a process, because
they've claimed a new narrative with the music, and they're now using it to push out positive messages. It's changed completely. You go to fashion as well. Quick question: do you like streetwear? Street fashion?
If I'm being honest, personally, not all of it.
But some of it?
Some of it, yes.
Remz?
Of course, I got that criticism you right now.
They say it's a bold claim that people will fight for. That street fashion started within the Black communities. It was cheaper. It felt more authentic. It hit home. See how big that has gone. Look at the Asians, Korea, and see how heavy they are into street fashion.
A lot of that is hip hop influence.
You get. So from being demonized, it's completely changed now. It's now part and parcel of the lifestyle of so many people across the world.
I fully agree, and I've seen that shift for sure. I think, if I'm also being honest, because of media portrayal, and you see where the origin of hip hop came from somewhere positive, then you go into gangster rap and all that extra stuff, and all how that fused into that fusion. I think sometimes me looking, because I'm born in Africa. Before you come in, you may think maybe Western Blacks have that portrayal of being overly aggressive based on the music.
Yeah.
And then you associate that with the fashion that comes with it. Then someone like me who probably doesn't like the full out streetwear because I may associate it with a type of behavior.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. And I think after a while, you actually have to surround yourself just to be like, it's like, is it art influencing life, life influencing art? You know, that cycle of things going in there. And I guess my question is, with the music and fashion, which I think has done way more positive than not, is there a case of maybe people trying to live up to a negative stereotype through music?
Well, when you look at like hip hop objectively, like its roots in New York, like when it started off, DJ Kool Herc, KRS-One, all of that, that is hip hop. I think there's a really popular like misconception, like people hear gangster rap and they hear you know, like fuck the police, like that is, you know what I'm saying? That is, hip hop is resistance music. Like it's not. So when you hear people talking about like selling drugs or doing this or doing that, that isn't like, that's when, you know, it's been like, what's the word?
Yeah.
It's been infiltrated, really. Yes, like, it's been infiltrated, because that doesn't represent hip hop. And even recently, you see with this whole Kendrick versus Drake thing, that's like the whole thing behind it. A lot of people think it's like, there's jealousy or this. No, it's just about, one represents what hip hop truly stands for, and one doesn't really. Do you know what I mean? Like at the root of it. And even when you look at the music and fashion, like we're still so like discriminated and taken advantage of. Like you look at the record deals that people have, and even the materials that you see a lot of these popular fashion brands using. Like, where do you think they come from? Like I remember hearing recently about, was it, I don't know if it was Gucci or Louis V, but the leather they were using, it came from, like, you know, the Hausa part of Nigeria. But then you'd see it's called Italian leather. How does that make sense? And then when you look at even the inspiration behind it, that comes from our style of doing things. And I know in the early days in hip hop in Harlem, there used to be this guy called Dapper Dan, and he would take the clothes and he would make like the maddest pieces, and all the rappers would go there and they would get all of his pieces and stuff like that. And then I remember, like, was it Louis V and all these guys, they'd always go shut him down. But then eventually he got employed by Gucci as like an in-house designer. So like the point in that is like, yo, like they take from us. It's not like, let me not put it like that, but let me say, like, it's a thing where a lot of things is like, it's taken and then people don't really receive the benefits, and then it's taken so long for any form of, because I would say, like, a lot of people say, oh, music right now is in like a horrible state and this, but I really disagree with, like, when it comes to, because we've still got a lot to be like proud of and thankful for. Like the editor in House of Vogue right now is Edward Enninful. Like, that's a black man. Like, you've got people like Naomi Campbell that have been in the fashion industry for years, and see what, like, yeah, like Clint and all of these guys are doing, like Manny Devoir. Like, there's loads of things to be proud of, but at the same time, like, there's still so much disconnect. So yeah. I think it's good to be able to acknowledge that, and then like people can look for ways to say, okay, so how can we work on this? Because outrage doesn't really do anything. It don't really do anything if you just say, oh yeah, like there's stereotype about this and this, that. Because I got a friend that, like, she lives in Hong Kong, and how they view black people there is like when she was telling me about her experience, it's like, it's just like, it's so messed up. Like, they think everyone is like a gangster.
Yeah,
like,
that's
like,
true.
And this thing is, like, speaking to people, like, if you do have honest conversations, you'll find out some things. But me, honestly, I'm usually never really that surprised, just because honestly I know everyone's got certain thoughts about whatever group. But also at the same time, don't you think maybe the way pop culture is controlled largely by black people, have we gotten relaxed on maybe how we are coming across more? Because the reason why I even asked that question before, how certain music might create a loop So first you have, as you said, hip hop was resistance music, right? Same thing with like maybe what was I think a bit of reggae with Bob Marley.
Yep.
You know, he has a great line, you know, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, none but ourselves can free our mind, right? And that really locks in. So what I'm saying is like, so if you see certain music that's promoting a certain behavior, and then you see the success that comes along with it, we've be like, well, he's successful in that area, I might do. Now I'm behaving as such. Now you fall into a pattern. Some people are really about it, some people are really not. Then it becomes a become. You export that to the world. This is how you're viewed now. And then you're suffering the consequences of the global appearance of such, when really every sector of ethnicity and culture is going to be different, but also within that, everyone's going to be different within difference. So my great question is like, have we become too relaxed about how personally we may also personally represent ourselves in the media?
No, and the reason I'm gonna say no is because I think that it's only when, like, let me put it this way, yeah. You see how you said that, like, or have we become too relaxed when it comes to like representation and whatnot? Okay, if someone is rapping about, like, when people are rapping about like the like stabbings or this that, like, whether it's fancy, whether it sounds nice or not, the reality of it is that is their reality.
Yeah,
so like,
yeah,
that's their reality. So hey, like, I don't know, like, but those, from how I see it, it's like these are people that are victims, that they've taken like the sorrow that they live amongst, and they've tried to make something beautiful out of it. I don't care how it might sound really gritty, it might sound violent, but at least they're expressing themselves in like a way that isn't, you know, causing any harm. Because it's not the music that causes the problems. It's not the raps, because all of the violence, that's a systemic problem that has existed from time immemorial. Yeah. That's something people need to go face the government about, not people, not artists. That's none of their business. Like, so I get so irritated when I hear people say, oh, like, yeah, like drill music causes a problem. No, because like, look at the, like, listen, before there was any of that, there was already gang violence. This is something that starts with the government. Like, this is a systemic issue. This is as a result of market failure, because people love capitalism so much. That's a fault of that. Yeah. So that has nothing to do with music. Whether it does reinforce that, 100% it does. But at the same time, it's not the cause. It's not the cause. So it shouldn't be looked at for the solution. Yeah, people can return. There will be like a gradual, even after this thing with Kendrick and Drake, there will be a gradual return to the roots of hip hop. Because even a lot of big artists, they have big singles, but a lot of people are not getting the same album sales because there's a disconnect. So people have to go back to making honest, true music. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of people like NBA Youngboy and all of these guys, what they're rapping about might be vulgar, but they're putting their heart into that, and like you can really feel it. So like, I think it's just so unfair to like look at that and say, oh yeah, like they need to adjust how they do their things, because I think it always comes down to like an ethnic thing. When minorities do anything, it's always like, there's always like a stereotype that then becomes attached to it. Yeah. Like growing up, if we're being so honest, like everyone had a perception of what they thought a terrorist looked like. Do you know what I mean? But you would never ever consider the UK government or the American government as terrorists. Do you get what I'm saying? But because of a few incidents, you've taken this group of people and it's been sewed into people's minds that their religion or whatnot, like, do you know what I'm saying, constitutes this. But why isn't that? But we can see how hypocritical and biased that is, because we don't apply that to all other races. We don't apply that to the main race that perpetuates this towards everyone else. So,
hey, to be fair, it's fully well said. We're gonna wrap that up to the next topic. Okay, so now we move on to the modern age and social media. So how do you think social media is contributing towards representation?
Social media is doing so much for our representation. When you compare it to traditional media, the traditional media has a narrative, you know. They push what they want to. Due to the decentralized nature of social media, it has become one of the strongest tools to reclaim narratives. When let's see George Floyd, for example, you know, the case started, it wasn't big on the traditional news outlets. But when people are retweeting and then through social media, people are planning protests, mass protests, it forces the media to bend the knee. You know, they see now that this has become more than just a buzz. Everybody is on it from social media. We can't, you know, keep a blind eye. We have to follow it. And that's how social media has been empowering, you know, communities. Something happens, people talk about it. Social media has put the power in our hands. If you have something to talk, you know, that's worth talking about, you start talking about it, people join the queue. People retweet you, people share their opinions as well. And then from there, the whisper keeps on growing, and then it gets to the mainstream media now. So social media has really become powerful for our community. It's the voice of the minority. You go to social media, get out there, people hop on it. You see stuff like GoFundMe campaigns as well. Something happens, some injustice happens, you know, still the mainstream media is not really looking at it. On social media, people start to talk about it, say, oh, how can we help this guy? How can we get to this guy? Before you know it, they start GoFundMe. Help us reach that guy.
Yeah.
And then I also think that the mainstream media now has started to follow social media. So when topics get loud enough on social media, the mainstream media has no choice. They follow social media.
Yeah, they really are. And even like people speaking about topics they really care about. And as you said, the decentralized nature of social media show we now push the narrative as before. I remember learning about this. There's an injection model theory. So it's just inject information that they want. So you see what you see, hence you believe what you believe. Now, when you have people on both sides pushing their stories, you can now have a proper, really good discourse.
Yes.
Yes. And of course, people can start calling each other out healthily and unhealthily. But also, I've seen so many good things, like so much stories in Africa don't get covered, but you have enough people on social media talking about it. And now, oh, did you guys hear about this? You guys hear about this? You know, there's something going on in Sudan, not really covered that much.
Yeah.
But you go on social media, you can find assets. You can find stories and things written about what's going on. And TikTok has really pushed that. People can have live videos of what's going on here and there. Sometimes some things are censored. Depending on which country you're in, you might be not allowed to talk about certain things to the greatest extent. Besides that, social media has been doing such a great job in just people getting their voice across.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
I agree, majorly agree, but obviously there just is the very big aspect of the problems attached to it, and especially when it comes to narratives and this kind of thing, because when we operate on a system, like when it comes to social media, whereas like persuasive technology is being used and there's algorithms and every second of your attention is being sold, like I feel like a lot of things become like you, like for example, I'm really passionate about stuff to do with what's going on in Congo, Palestine, all of that kind of stuff. So like I'm gonna see a lot more things on my screen that will like cause me to like look more like things that will infuriate me. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know, like I feel like it creates like such an emotional like thing with people, and it just kind of clouds your judgment so much that it prevents you from actually being logical to say, oh, because I think like as you get older, I don't know, but like you might want to start thinking like all of these things that we see, like, oh, what can we individually do? And anyway, what can we do to actually improve or help this situation in any way? But when you're stuck in such like an emotional rut and like you're constantly seeing like babies getting, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like it just puts you in such like a place where like you can't even do anything, because I feel like there's so much people I know that they'll go online and they'll see all of these things and they'll talk a lot about it online, which is great, which I think is good. But then again, we need to understand that is just on a bunch of chips. Like there's an actual like outside world where like I think that sucks us away from this real world, because this is just supposed to be a reflection of this.
Yeah.
You know, it's just supposed to aid how we interact with the outer world. But when this becomes the center, like that's a problem. Do you get what I'm saying? Because then not enough attention is paid to the outer.
I fully hear that. It's the many tactics social media is employing to get us to stay active on social media.
Yeah.
A lot of outrage marketing, a lot of also feeding you what you like. Sometimes it's the things that maybe not the most important that's going to keep feeding you, hence encourages the behavior of people posting certain things.
Yeah.
Also, when everyone feels like they have a voice, which is a good thing, but everyone has a take that might be absolutely wild, which might become popular, distracting away from certain things, looping into a conversation that then can get dragged out into real life. The unnecessary gender wars.
Andrew Tate.
Yeah, so... But yeah, very good point about social media there. I think it's a nice contrast. So we're now going to move on to the final topic. So this year's theme for Black History Month is reclaiming narratives. And me here working for the union, I took some initiative to making sure that we talk about stories that we may have not heard about before. This is not the case of like it being necessarily hidden, because the information is out there. It's just not popular. And usually it's kind of like hiding things in plain sight. And we can all just walk by it. So we have a few stories coming out. And at this time, we would have had your video out, which talks about the Mali Empire with Mansa Musa, arguably the richest man in history of the Mali Kingdom. And next week, we'll have your video come out, which talks about the Kingdom of Kush, which is based in what is now modern-day Sudan, aka Nubia. And it's really a similar story to Egypt. They were really more of alike, more of the same people.
Way more pyramids built there.
Way more pyramids standing there, 200 plus. But we don't talk about it. And is it the case of selective storytelling? Of course, the Egyptian civilization was very impressive, as you know, more than pyramids to contribute to the world. You know, then when the Greeks had trading secrets, they influenced the world. The world influenced them. But it's also the story of like, here's like Sudan, here's Ethiopia, here's what's going on in West Africa, here's what's going on in North Africa, here's what's going on in Central Africa, here's what's going on here and here and here. Knowledge all over the place. And I think sometimes things get lost because a lot of passed down knowledge was traditionally the tribal people who would live in tribes would pass down stories orally. But sometimes if things were written down, they were purposely burnt and like just removed. So as we move down along the chain, we forget who we are and what our story is. So now we're really trying to repiece it together. And so I just rambled on a lot, but I just kind of, what do you think we could do to, I guess, reclaim the narrative that we know there's a story that is not heard? What do you think we can do about that?
There's many things we can do about that. One of the things we should start with is using our voices and, educating everyone. When this Black History Month campaign started, I had ideas, if you remember clearly, and you changed my narrative on the ideas, because I wanted to talk about post-colonialism, and you said, no, Reggie, there's so much great stuff pre-colonialism. There's so much, that we came from. Let's not focus on this. And you brought those stories. I read about the Mali Empire, and these guys had wealth, not just wealth in gold and finances, but education. Most people don't know that. Most people don't know that. Most people don't think that. When they think of, ancient Africa, is ruins, trees, elephants. They don't think of kingdoms.
That's true.
They don't think of these kingdoms. And then the more we spread the stories, Remz told me about the Wall of Benin.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this.
That, yeah.
I didn't know this. I grew up in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So we need to use our voices more. We're stuck talking about the slavery periods, or those periods where it seemed like Africa had nothing. We should let everyone know that that's not true. We had so much stuff going on. Gao, Timbuktu became they became points where massive education, universities, education was being spread from these places in Africa. That's not the popular narrative. So you changed my narrative.
To be fair, I'm super happy about that. And the person who changed my narrative was Akala, the rapper / historian.
He's
There's a little bit of everything.
He's phenomenal, mate.
There's a little bit of everything.
And of course, someone like that can grab so many views, and let's say like people of different character types. You have someone like Akala who can touch a bit on everyone. And I watched his Oxford Union talk, and he spoke about this and this and this and that. And I'm just like, what, really? I didn't know about that. I was fed into a certain narrative when my history really stops at Britain came to your country and civilized you.
Yeah.
And you hear that as well. Like, I watched a documentary in the Congo, and people speak about I believe it's King Leopold, who was a tyrant and had the Congo for himself, like just tortured, brutalized people. And some people still believe that the king came to Congo and civilized the people. That's the narrative. Leaving out...
he was barbaric.
Yeah. Using the Congo for his own personal company and gain. And these are the stories where I'm like, of course, science tells us the first people came from, I think, Eastern Africa. And I think the oldest body was found in somewhere in Ethiopia. If people came from here and they spread across the world, and really also just knowing how people are, we're all pretty much way more alike than we are super different. So, but also Africa has a great diversity of like super smart to everything, super tall, super everything. And then you just be like, oh, no, they're all the same because skin color and also the narrative they painted. I think it's very good to learn other things, because me personally, it did rebuild my confidence, actually. I feel way more good about myself knowing that, like, oh, of course.
This is where you come from.
Of course. You know, and that's really much, that was my, like, of course. But for so long, you kind of just believe, like, okay, we're in the now. Let's just keep pushing on.
Yeah.
And we should keep pushing on, but it's just like, of course. Basically. I'm sorry, what do you have to say, Remz?
Nah, but do you know what it is, yeah? Like, when it even comes to history, yeah, I think because we're so stuck in the now, like, we fail to account how, like, large history is. So when you even talk about colonialism, that's made up what, like, the last 500 to 1,000 years if we include colonization by the the caliphates from Northern Africa and whatnot. But like, there's so much history, and I think people, like, race is really, like, that's something that's been constructed over the last 500 years. Like, people had, like, I think people think that everyone was kind of in their own place and no one like the people had like relations, like they traded with each other,
They
like
traveled around.
like there were like there would have been loads of people, you know, different colors living in Rome, in, you know, all over, you know. I know Zimbabwe had a really popular, that was a popular city. There were people, different kind of things going on there. They found Indian and Chinese coins there, I'm pretty sure, ancient ones. So like you can imagine, like this world, we've actually always been like a global village. We've always been interconnected, but like for whatever reason there seems to be like peaks and troughs with it. It's like a cycle. Like there's times when it goes up and then it goes down, like. And yeah, like when it comes to like the history and all of that, like I think because of the kind of family I grew up in, like right from like Nigeria, like my dad's family, like my dad, he comes from a royal family anyway. Like they've got, like when I go there, they've got like a horn that's on the ground, and it's like when we go home, like we pour libations to because like a symbol that represents our ancestors. Like so I've always just had the mindset that I'm descended from like royalty. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even when I look at like a lot of sub-Saharan Africans, they would have descended from like, they would have like traveled from that region of Egypt and Nubia and all of that kind of things. And you think of what they were doing, they were so advanced. Like even the positioning of the pyramids in terms of like its relation to like the sun and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. When you look at it, you're like, what? Like they were just, you know what I'm saying? They were so incredible. And I find it so funny because I remember growing up, you'd always hear the rumor, like just the stupid theories about like aliens and stuff like that. Yeah. And I remember recently thinking about it and I was like, it must be like, you must be racist, like to think that, like you must be.
No.
Because I was like, people find it so difficult to believe that Black people could have done that they have to.
They'd rather believe in aliens.
They'd rather believe in like, not that aliens aren't like, we're not, hey, like, you know what I'm saying?
It's possible. I believe in aliens.
Yo, this world is infinite. Like, I think there's a few species out there too.
But I'm also under the strong thinking that it's a tactical move by the European colonial movement of the time.
Of course.
Where like even the idea of this, a lot of statues and Sphinx having their noses taken off. Yeah. It's just like, of course, we don't know why and how it happened or whatever, but it's one of those things that make you question of like, what were we trying to hide and what influence, like they really couldn't believe that ancient Africans could do such a thing. That was so impressive that it can't be repeated for a long time. Yeah. And apparently the pyramids for a long time were the tallest building, man-made construction in the world since like a few years ago or something like that. But of course, fact check me if you saw, but I just saw that somewhere. And but this is the part of reclaiming narratives, which I think is super important, where it's just like, okay, we are of the now, and it's like you say, it's a global village. We're influencing each other all across different empires and cultures, influencing each other, trading, creating even like a sense of a new race or whatever. And you can even see it like, but it's just, I think to have the level of confidence and respect, if we are coming to the table together, right? I think Europe has its military and maybe like scientific and educational positioning in the world where they can just be like, okay, this is who we are and we control the narrative. So it's very easy for you to look at them and just be like, okay, this is what it is. And then you have places like China, Japan, that had to build themselves to bring themselves to the table. And then we know about their history and how they were like strong in such an empire. You have now India rising. And I think you bring yourself together, you can now really bring your story and don't let anyone else tell your story to really skew it to a position that would not favor you. And I think if we really bring our stories in, I think the mission is going to be purposely on Black people ourselves. Once again, to that line to Bob Marley, emancipate yourself from mental slavery, none but ourselves will free our minds. And I feel like I've been actively trying to do that ever since I got that, saw that talk from Akala. And I can also say there's so much more I still don't know.
Yeah.
And Benin Wall, you told me about that. So
I'm always learning.
Yeah. And I came to you with some information. Yeah, so imagine what we can do when we just pass it along. It's just like, did you know about this?
Yep.
And with the position we have of being the cultural influencers and whatever with fashion and stuff, who knows how you can spin that even more. I just know that it still takes a case of being popular and people wanting to do it. And just because you're black does not necessarily mean you have to be of certain ways. People are different.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I hope we keep learning. I hope we keep pushing.
Student for life.
Relearn, unlearn the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
And then learn what's correct.
Yeah.
And then push what you've learned to others, educate others. So I've unlearned this. This is what it is. And I think you guys should know this is what it is. If you don't believe me, go out there, do your research, find out. And when they go do research, because this is the same how it happened to me, research, and now I'm like, that's massive. This is game changing.
For sure, game changing. We're here to change the game. Black History Month here at Brunel. Finishing up, just tying off. Well, guys, we do have a few events happening here. Brunel's planned. Is there anything you want to promote?
Yeah, we got. It's the 9th today. We got gin and juice today.
Gin and juice.
We got gin and juice
do.
today. Tomorrow, our ACS, we've been invited to go to the King's College ACS. They're doing something. Next week, we're at Black Business Week. We got the STEM Careers Fair, and we got the Business Talk. We got loads of things. We got yoga coming up. We got Soca Step coming up.
We've got Men's Health.
We got Men's
On the
Health.
6th of November coming up.
Yeah, November we got our Sip and Paint as well. Yeah, you guys just stay tuned, innit?
Yeah.
Active.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining us for this episode of What's Brewing here at Brunel.
Thank you for inviting us.
And I do believe the conversations were very honest, and
Yeah.
and you know, I like the passion we spoke with as well here and there. And I think even though, like, of course, like I feel like I would have known type of answers you would have given me. It was good to ask and just be like, actually, no, I didn't expect that. And it was a good, it was a good back and forth. But yeah,
True.
I know he was expecting everything because we be having these combos like regularly.
No
but
lie.
I think that's the beauty of you just talking more.
Yeah,
And
it is.
This is the only shame is that we don't have more time.
Yeah.
That's the only shame, because we could keep going and going and going.
let us know if you want to see a part 2. We can talk more about this. But we'll see you next time on What's Brewing. And yeah, make sure you comment below and keep the conversation going. See you guys.
In a bit, guys.
Bye, everyone.